Good morning. Hi, my name is David Theus, and welcome to episode 13 of the Saturday morning coaching call. At real time is 9:02 a.m. Today is Saturday, April 16th. Happy Easter. Yesterday was Good Friday, and the good news is coming tomorrow. So for Easter, he is risen. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited about this. This is my favorite holiday. So Saturday morning coaching call brought to you by the Small Business Patriot. I am joined this morning with my sidekick and co-host, Peggy Lynch of 21K Promotions. She's out there in St. Augustine, Florida, St. Johns County. We're going to get to hear a little bit about Peggy and what she does in just a moment. And if you're not familiar with us, you're watching us here on YouTube, or you're coming to us through the newsletter, the Small Business Patriot newsletter, and I'll have a link in the show notes how you can sign up for that for $19.99, 52 episodes, 52 weeks, chock full of marketing tips, insights, legislative updates that affect you as a small business owner, all kinds of information in a very short read and a very compact method of getting that to your email every Monday morning at 6 a.m. The Small Business Patriot for $19.99 per year. It's a deal. All right, so let's get started. Peggy Lynch with 21K Promotions. I don't want to give it away who she is, but as a formal introduction, let's go ahead and introduce yourself and a little bit about what you do, and then we'll pick up maybe some of the format. But go ahead, Peggy. Welcome.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Peggy Lynch, 21K Promotions. What I do is I provide branded merchandise for any size business, organization, individuals, clubs, churches, whatever the case. So that's what I do. Do you want to go into my question right away, or?
Do you have a unique experience? You don't have to give away necessarily who the customer is, but have you had something recently that just to, I'm a storyteller, in case you hadn't figured this out by watching this. And we have a group that's here in 3 counties now: Putnam County, Florida, Clay County, Florida, and Duval County. And it's called the Northeast Florida Business Alliance. And I'm going to save some of this messaging for the end, but we do some networking. Networking's not like my favorite word. But if most of us have been involved in some form of networking or some sort of meeting before, where you stand up, you got 60 seconds to tell your story, the elevator pitch, and then someone's manning the bell and they ding the bell and everyone kind of gets a chuckle, but you feel like I didn't really get a chance to say what I wanted to say. And so I believe that everyone loves a good story. Even when we were children, we loved a bedtime story from a mom or dad or a grandparent. And so it doesn't have to be long, but I would rather hear maybe a little story from someone to tell us about what you do and why you do it. But if you've got something that comes to mind, we can always touch it at the end of the episode as well. But just to kind of spark your mind, anything come to mind as far as a recent interaction with a customer or something that?
Yeah, sure. I have a couple of things, but I'll describe the happy one first.
Okay, happy's good.
So I had a client request, believe it or not, a key to be imprinted, not a key tag. Okay. So just like it kind of looks like your house key, just like that. Wants it in orange with an imprint. And it took me 2 weeks, looking every single place. Do you know that they don't exist? They have to be custom made. But either way, I was so pleased when I finally found this orange key, and the client responded back. She said, you just did the impossible. And I thought, well, you know what? I love a challenge. And so that was
the size of a key, a normal key, or larger?
No, same. And yeah, it's going to say the tagline is going to be something to do with you're the key to our success or something.
Yeah.
So,
hey. And that's the benefit of having someone we've talked about in prior episodes who listens to what you're asking. And then the goal here is to exceed our customers' expectations. So the only way we do that is to listen intently to what their needs and concerns are. And then hopefully, instead of just blowing past that information and giving them one of the words you heard. It could have been that, like a big key, a big phone key or something like that. That's not what they wanted. So anyway, all right, well, that's good. That demonstrates the skill sets that we need to do to be in business.
Yeah.
All right. So you have a topic that maybe we want to bring up?
Sure. Okay. My word today is negotiation. Okay. I feel that truly it always comes down to money. And a quick couple of examples on that is real estate. If a buyer is looking at a property and they really don't want to spend the amount that they've suggested they can spend, and so then they have to find a way to negotiate that price down. And they'll say, well, I really wanted bedrooms with paneling on them, or whatever the case, or I don't want carpeting, whatever. So instead of ripping out the carpeting, they just offer, a credit, and then it satisfies the client. And then, another example would be like vendor terms. Typically it's, net 30, and some clients want, net 60 or 90. So there it comes down to money again, because then the rate changes. So negotiation is the issue.
Okay. Well, let me start by saying this. I don't want to be crass, but it has some crass implications. Early on in my sales career, when you start off in business and you start off in a sales position, your experience, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. In hindsight, I look back and say it was good because I got to see both sides of the coin, I guess. But you run across all types of sales management type people, good ones and bad ones. And I'm sure for those who might be listening, you can quickly put a list together of all the bad ones. But someone along life's way shared with me that the definition of a sale, the actual, the sale activity itself coming together, is when you think you're screwing over on me and I think I'm screwing over on you. And so it's somewhat crass, but it's that point in the middle where the buyer is, I got a deal on this guy. And the seller is, oh yeah, I got a deal on this guy. And that's when the transaction happens. That's when the shaking of the hands and the ink meets the paper, you got a sale. Now, for those of you who might be listening via Spotify or watching on YouTube, some of you might be shaking your head going, yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. Hopefully from that point in your sales career, you meet other people and you get to see not only just because that's necessarily a bad thing. You just get some other advice along life's way, and you mature and you get to be maybe a little bit smarter and a little bit more professional is the word I guess I'm looking for. I guess ultimately when the deal is struck is when everybody comes together and says, well, I'm willing and you're willing, I got a deal, without being so crass. So along life's journey, I met other people that were business owners and who were sales management types, and they had their own philosophies. Some people believed in a high list price. For example, I spent a lot of time in business to business, B2B. And you had a list price, you had wholesale pricing, and the list price was suggested manufacturer's retail price, if you will, which was, I don't know that anybody paid list price. That was just a starting point. And from there, you could, in the furniture business, we had discount structures like 50, 10, and 10. That would be a wholesale price, 50, 10, and 10, or you'd have 40 off, or even in government price in GSA contracts, we would see 72 off. I mean, okay, wait a minute. What are we doing here? I mean, what was the list price? And now we're making, 28% on this deal, 72% off. Why don't we just get honest with each other? Mm-hmm. And so that's when you get a little bit more mature and you start to realize that, why are we going through this whole charade, this dance? Why don't we just be honest and come out with our best price? And so years ago, I think it was Saturn, the auto manufacturer, had bought into this dialogue about car salesmen and how the general populace hated the negotiation piece because it was so arduous and just a pain in the butt to have to sit there and go, no, I'm gonna have to take this price to my manager, which was, them going back and laughing and high-fiving each other and then coming back with a signature that says, okay, I can't do this price, but I can do that price. And so was that really productive? Was it best use of everybody's time to go through this dance only to get to a point where you knew the price was going to be and everybody would be happy? Let's just cut to the chase and get to the deal. And so somewhere along life's way in the furniture business, I learned a lot of this stuff in furniture as a manufacturer's rep, where I actually represented a factory who had a cost of goods sold, and then we wanted to sell it and make a profit. And so within that list price range to a wholesale price, there was a lot of wiggle room, we'll call it.
Mhm.
There was a fella named Charlie Turner. And I feel very confident that Charlie's not going to watch this today or any time in the future, so I can mention his name. And he was a principal and owner of a Herman Miller qualified or certified dealer here in Northeast Florida. And Charlie did very well. And there's a couple things I'm gonna talk about Charlie with as far as your terms that he came up with. And he played very well in a very, I would say, tight margin. He played the margins very well. He was very savvy at it. And so his philosophy was, and he was speaking to me now as a Herman Miller factory rep. This was a dealer in our network trying to work the best deal for Charlie, speaking to the horse's mouth, the representative from Herman Miller. And he would say, look, Theus, just give me your best deal. Let's quit this BSing around. He was of that philosophy. Let's quit the negotiating, all these steps and hurdles. Just give me your best deal. Then I can price my best deal and get on with it. Now, first things that comes to mind, and I don't want to throw Mr. Charlie under the bus, there was always that moment, well, wait a minute, if we're gonna drop our pants, you got to drop your pants too. And so there's this natural inclination from a corporate factory guy, which I was not. I was an independent guy. But a corporate factory guy goes, well, wait a minute, Mr. Charlie's trying to get one over on us. He's trying to get me to drop my pants. I got to quit saying that. He's got to get us to lower our price as much as possible, so then he can make profit and make better margin. Well, he was capable of doing that. That's, he played that game pretty well. But at the end of the day, I think he knew best that we can dicker around and potentially lose the job, or we can just cut to the chase and go right to the spot where we know we're giving our best shot. And I think as a gambling man, he felt the odds were in his favor to go deep and go to he knew he was going to make money. I'll tell you in a minute how he did it. He knew it was in his favor not to BS around. I think he would rather take the odds of, it's a 50-50 shot, it's a 60-40 shot. If I give my best opportunity, I could wow them and let's move on. And he won a lot of jobs that way. But it was he told me one day, he says, look, you factory guys are all the same. But then he said, Theus, you seem to be a little bit different. And I think it's because I was an independent contractor. But he was always saying it's always a fight with you guys to understand the plight that we have as the dealer, the guy on the street. You guys make it up there in Michigan and you're just fancy pantsy about your stuff, but you don't understand the competitive constraints that we have on the street. And so he was making a great argument. And now as a self-employed person myself for over 30 years, he was right. There's struggle amongst us in the marketplace. And sometimes the factories that are, thousands of miles away don't fully understand that. They're good at what they do and they make their decisions accordingly. So to the point, he believed that the negotiation game was just that, a game. And let's get right to our best price, our best offer right away. Now, the challenge for him on the backside to make money at this was he had to control labor cost because he had an installation crew. Now he didn't pay the best to his labor, there were people that paid more, but he was very sharp pencil kind of guy. he had to control his warehouse costs, where the stuff came in, transportation costs. And if you went to his warehouse in a part of town it was in, it wasn't a real fancy, glitzy chrome and glass showroom, which we hated. We were like, come on, we're the best company in the world. You got to have a better showcase for us. And he's like, no, I'm running a business here. It's kind of like the NFL. I think the Tampa Bay Bucks, before all this stuff happened, the old ownership, the Tampa Bay Bucks was the most profitable football team in the NFL, but they never won a Super Bowl years ago, because they ran it like a business. The ownership said, no, this is a business. I don't care if I win Super Bowls or not. We're gonna be profitable. So he did that. Now here's how he made money. And not everybody can do this, by the way. We offered terms. Herman Miller said, we're in the cash flow business too. If we can get you to pay sooner, Mr. Dealer Distributor, then we'll give you a little break. That 210 net 30, that's 2%. If you pay me in 10 days, I'll give you an additional 2%. Or you don't pay me in 10 days, net 30. The rest of it's due in 30 days, the price that I've quoted you. And those terms were negotiable too, the 210 net 30, 310 net 30, 3 cash net 30, meaning now I'll pay you now. If you'll give me 2 in 10 days, how much will you give me if I write the check tomorrow? Well, not everybody could do that. I mean, we were selling projects that were $400,000, $200,000, $600,000. Charlie could do that. And so where he made up for this quote unquote lowballing approach that he had was those 2 points. Now you think the 2 points, that's not that much. But if you annualize 2 points on every job, it gets pretty significant. And that's where he won the game. And so it took a long time for the factories to figure that out. But at the end of the day, they didn't really care either, because they were getting cash flow that they needed desperately to keep the factory moving. So anytime I figured it out and went back to my uppity ups and said, look, this is a win, guys. We're going to win the business. We're going to somewhat buy the business, but we're going to win the business. We're going to have presence in a market that we're losing the market share, but you got to play ball with this guy. And a lot of the management and the uppity ups, as I like to say, they got egos in the way. And they said, no, he's winning on us. He's taking advantage of us. I'm like, stop the crying and the belly aching. Let's realize what's going on here. We need market share, which we don't have in this area. There's a guy who can do it and a guy who can help us get there. Let's take this ride. So that's a long-winded story about that aspect of negotiation. But yeah, we're doing some of that right now as we speak in our household. There's some stuff going on. And we're already starting to think about how we're going to do it, but I'm already bringing this kind of best to the table mindset and saying, look, let's not BS each other. Let's just get right to the point. So I guess it's a philosophy thing. I mean, can you share some of your experiences with the art of negotiation, or is it an art, or do you feel indifferent about it, or what?
There's always some amount of negotiation, in my business. But one came to mind when you mentioned car dealers a little bit ago, and just made me laugh. It reminded me of a car dealer in Chicago that I was working with. And in his mind, he was convinced that all of my products are 50% off the retail price shown in the catalog, 50% across the board. Tried to explain to him, no, that is not the case at all. But either way, that was his mindset. And I came back to him and I said, I'll tell you what, there's a catalog price. What do you think that should cost? What are you going to pay me for that item? And I'll tell you if I can take the order, yes or no. And I started writing a lot of business with him. So, yeah.
You took he took some of his ammunition away, it sounds like. We don't operate in a list pricing model so much anymore. The internet, the Amazons of the world have really destroyed you know, I can remember a day back to the furniture business, for example, where 35%, some of those guys made crazy margins. I mean, 40, 50, 60% markups sometimes,
Wow.
which, hey, that there's that ideology. The customer thought he had a deal and we thought we had a deal. So the guy paid 65% markup, you know, delivered, installed, whatever, you know, there's part of those negotiations. Okay, I'm going to pay 65%, but you're going to deliver it and you're going to install it, right? Well, then you can quickly figure out that there's an installation cost associated. So it's half dozen the other. I pay 65% markup, it's delivered, installed, or I pay 10% markup and you're going to charge me to deliver it, install it. You know what I mean? I mean, you think there's 9 ways to skin a cat, but there's really not. It's the same bucket of money. It's just, it's packaged differently. In the furniture business, I've been out of it for God, over 25 years now, or 21 years, whatever it is. But I'm hearing stories like 4 and 5, 7% is hanging the moon. And so they're basically giving the furniture away
Yeah.
and it's a service proposition now. And the service guys to deliver it, to install it, to maintain it, they're selling maintenance contracts. And so what that means is that industry has been what we call commoditized. The cell phone industry is a quick way that most consumers can identify that. Back in the day, you could buy a cell phone and you had to pay all these fees and all these, you know, roaming fees. You'd leave your market and go to another market and you'd have a roaming fee associated with it. And then once 80 billion people had cell phones and all the infrastructure was laid in, that's what we were all paying for, is the buildup of that infrastructure. But once the infrastructure was in, just like Ma Bell and phones and cable, it was a commodity. Then it just turned into who's a bigger whore than the other one and what price can they sell it for to get you on board. And so that's just a business cycle that happens. Your business, unfortunately for you, sometimes is a lot of information's on the street. I mean, yeah, I've seen those little books, you know, that get publicized and pushed out there, and then they try to hide it with the codes, the R's and the S's and the P's and the T's. And,
Right.
but it doesn't take long for people to kind of figure out what's going on. And so then, because of the internet and the Amazons and everybody else, now you got guys coming to you and saying, oh, R means 40 or 50, whatever it is. I want that
Yeah.
price. Well, you don't get that price. I mean, that's just not how it works. But information, albeit good, we all need more information, sometimes can be a detriment, because now you're, you know, the guy's playing in your backyard. So I like the way you did that. Restate that again. So now let me set the table. The information is common knowledge, because there's sources out there, either those little books or people just become familiar with your industry. And so they think they want your wholesale price. So what did you do to win it back?
Well, yeah, he assumed
Yeah.
that everything was discounted 50%. You know, my net was that cost. And so I came back to him and I just said, I'll tell you what, there's the catalog price, and you tell me what you think that product is worth, and I'll tell you if I can take the order.
That's actually really cool. So, I mean, you flipped the script on him is what you did. You said, okay, you think you got all the information, name your price, and then walk. So did you ever have a situation where he was like, well, wait a minute? When you started to walk, he was like, okay, what about this? You know, did he ever do that?
Not so much that.
So you lost that one potentially.
No, you're talking about the car dealer. Oh no, I got him. No, I had him as a client for a long time.
Okay.
I wrote tons of business with him.
So that is the game. I mean, there's a lot of sales guys out there going, oh yeah, well, you know, there's names for all that, you know, a flinch or all kinds of stuff. Ultimately, I met another fella. This is story time. Sorry. This is actually a really cool story, and God love this guy. I'm sure he's dead now, but I moved to Avondale, outside of Jacksonville, a suburb of Jacksonville in the city, back in 89 or 90, I guess it was. And there was this restaurant that opened up called Biscotti's. Neighbors of mine, I could literally walk out my front door 600 paces and I was at the bar sitting at Biscotti's. And it was really eclectic design, exposed, like kind of like my brick walls behind me, exposed brick walls. That's interesting that I like that because of that. Wood floors, had this really cool old tables and old seating. They were Thone for those furniture folks out there, they were Thone seating, wood. They were probably maple or they were cherry, I think. Maple or cherry. I think they were cherry. Cherry Thone contract dining seating. And you couldn't, I was a furniture rep. I looked them up in the Thone catalog. They weren't existent anymore. And so they had come out of an old restaurant, basically an old diner or something like that. And this guy in Jacksonville, downtown Jacksonville, if you're familiar with Jacksonville, there's Bay Street along the river. And years ago, we had a fire in 1901, but right after the fire, before the fire, they had all these old hotels along the river. And the story goes that the sailors would come in after the war or whatever it was, and that was the red light district for Jacksonville, because that's the hotels where all the stuff would happen when the sailors would come in off the boat. But there were like 2 of them left. Some of them had burned or been knocked down and turned into parking lots. These 2 that are left are gone now. But this old man had one of them, and it was a furniture store. And so I talked to the owner of Biscotti, said, "Where did you get these chairs? I mean, I'd love to get some of these from my apartment." And they said, "Well, go see Fred," or whoever he was. And so I went down there, and it was one of those places like on Old Town Main Street. It was all chained up and, pull down iron doors. And you had to how do you get in this place? And I finally get in, and it's an old hotel. There's the old grand lobby where you walk in, and the staircase is off to, it was just, wow, this must have been a place, But from floor to ceiling, it was stacked with crap. This guy was the ultimate in hoarder, but he ran a business. It was one of those places where you went in and said, "Oh, I want this, I want that." So I found the chairs. I told him, I said, "I'm looking for some seat." I didn't give it away where I'd been, but he was smart as a tack, man. I go, "I'm looking for this. Maybe you got any old seating? I'm looking for something for my dining room." And he goes, "Yeah, what are you looking for?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, maybe something wood, something kind of dated, not real new." And he goes, "Been to Biscotti's, haven't you?" I was like, crap. And I'm like, I think I just lost this one. And I said, "Biscotti's, what are you talking about?" He goes, "You've been to Biscotti's. Don't try to BS me, buddy." And I'm like, "Okay, do you got any more of those chairs?" And he said, "Yeah." So he takes me back to the seat, and they picked over the good ones, but there were still about 4 that were really good. I just need to clean them up a little bit and take them to my refinisher, and he could doctor them up, but they were in great shape. And I said, "Okay, how much you want for these?" He goes, $75 a piece. I said, $75? Come on, man. I mean, $75, that's a lot of money. That's, I don't want to pay $75. He goes, "You're here, aren't you?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You came to my store because you knew they were here, and you're standing talking to me, and now we've got them in front of you, and you don't want to pay $75? I was like, man, he's cooked my goose. And I said, "I got nowhere to go, do I?" He goes, "Nope." He says, "Except for you can turn around and leave without your chairs." And I reached in my pocket and pulled out the $75 times 4 and bought $300 worth of chairs. I said, that son of a gun owned me from the time I walked in, because he knew he had what I wanted, and I wanted them enough to go to this place in Jacksonville to go find them, and found them, and no one else had them. And he knew that. So I said, okay, after the, now he's a friend. He's taken me. He hadn't taken me. I mean, he's a fellow salesman. And so I said, okay, whatever, I can't remember his name was, but I said, "Okay, you got all this crap. What is your game, man? What's the deal?" He goes, "Well, I see stuff I like, and there's got to be other people like you that might like this stuff too. The problem is it's just a waiting game to see when they're going to come in the door." And I said, "Do you turn this stuff? I mean, how do you turn your inventory?" He goes, "No, I don't really care about that. It's just stuff that I like, and I can't wait for someone like you to come in the door." I'm like, "Well, come on. I know you're starting to be offensive. I want the chairs, and they're good chairs." He goes, "I know, but it's fun, isn't it?" And I was like, golly, man, I'd love to hang out with this guy some more, but he just took $300 from me. I'm ready to get the chairs and get out of here. Anyway, but there's the art of the deal, the art of the sale, the art of the negotiation. I'm sure that guy's dead now. I mean, because he was probably in his 70s or 80s back then. But he was one of those guys. I actually went back and saw him a couple more times and would talk and hang out with him. But I got my 4 chairs, and he knew that I wanted them. So it's pretty cool.
Cool story.
Okay. And there were no terms on that deal. It was cash on the barrel.
Yeah, right.
Anything else?
No.
I kind of occupied that story again. Okay, so it's 9:32 real time. Here we are again, 30 minutes, and we seem to be rocking and rolling this time frame. I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping again for those of you that make it this far into the video. If you're watching here on YouTube under the Small Business Patriot, and also on Spotify or wherever you may listen to a podcast, we're not on Apple Tunes or Apple Cast, whatever it's called, but we are on several Spotify, iHeartRadio, believe it or not, Google Podcast, a couple of different spots, but Spotify posts, most people know. The Small Business Patriot. We have a newsletter called The Small Business Patriot, and that newsletter is literally chock full, 52 weeks of chock full of marketing tips, insights. What's pretty cool is we do this coaching call. This is replayed in the newsletter as well. And then if you notice, did you notice last week you were talking about competition, your competition? And so part of that insight was I was able to find some really juicy articles on how to set yourself apart in the marketplace and against your competition. And so this kind of sets the theme for the newsletter. And so the theme for the newsletter on this one will be negotiations and how to negotiate best practices in negotiation. So I'm going to sift through the myriad of all the information on the internet and find a great article or two about negotiations and tie that to this video presentation that we're doing, this coaching call. And then we do some inside baseball legislative activity that's going on up in Washington regarding small business. We don't have very many fans, unfortunately, in this current regime for us small business owners, what I like to call Main Street heroes. And that's a term that comes from Blake. I can't remember Blake's last name. I should know that. He's the ranking House member on the Small Business Committee of the Republican side. But challenging times that we live in, and I'm afraid it's going to get worse. And so let me make a pitch for a push for one opportunity. Wherever you are listening to this, I challenge each one of you to join up with like-minded people. All of us small business people are very independent by our nature. We have rugged individualism, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, and it is what makes us successful. It is what makes us want to do what we do, because some of us are a little pig-headed more than others, and we want to go out and do what we want to do because that's the way we think. Well, not unlike any other time in our history, now is the time that we must join forces so that we have a voice. Cumulatively, we're stronger than we are as independents. And so I'm not saying give up our individualism, our rugged individualism. I'm just saying that we need to find other like-minded people. I'm not a huge fan of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce for some reasons we'll get into some other time, but if it's the Chamber of Commerce that's available to you, join up, because you're going to have other folks around you. If you're here in Putnam, Clay, or Duval County, I encourage you to look to seek me out. And for the Northeast Florida Business Alliance, we have about 60 individuals that are business owners that are a part of our group, and we join together, become friends, and because of our friendship and alliance that we have together, we're able to send business each other's way. So the goal of this thing is to get people, other salespeople, if you will, in your organization, spreading the word. And we have to join forces, not only for us to build our business, but to be able to fight off this attack that we're getting from our government, quite frankly. So the word of my encouragement for each one of you is to join forces with like-minded people, build strategic alliances, find other business owners that provide not necessarily not the same services per se, but parallel services that are accompany each other well. That there's synergy, that you can, whatever the business you're in, find something that's synergistic to your business and vice versa, and join forces with those people and build an alliance. We've got to start putting our efforts together as well as being individuals. Okay. Any parting thoughts?
Great message, first of all. Joining forces is the way to go. Got to do it. All
right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again so much for joining us on Saturday morning. on Easter weekend. So that says something about Peggy's determination and I think mine too. And if you're watching us, please like and share us and subscribe to this YouTube channel and like and follow us on Spotify and share with a friend or a neighbor or a fellow business owner that could use this message and you find beneficial. And again, as I always say, I hope you have a blessed weekend with your family this weekend, Peggy. And folks, stay vigilant, stay in the fight, and stay vigilant. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Peace out. See you. Bye.
Bye, David.